The first thing I would say is that for all our athletes, we always recommend taking kind of a balanced plate approach. I think it's a really easy way to think about it, to help them kind of visualize it. And so if I was talking to a soccer player that is in maybe the normal, day-to-day practice, games, etc., I would recommend at least having their plate balanced with thirds. And that's a third of their plate coming from carbohydrate-rich sources, things like grains, rice, pasta, bread, starchy vegetables like potatoes and corn. Then a third of their plate coming from protein-rich sources. So whether that's meat, seafood, plant-based sources like beans, nuts, legumes, nut butters, and then the other third would be from fruits and veggies. So that's kind of our baseline, if you will. And I always talk to athletes about, our plate is going to ebb and flow throughout a season, whether it's in season versus off season. Maybe it's you're playing 90 minutes, maybe you're playing none. Different things will affect how our plate should look. But one of the biggest things I always try to get our athletes to understand is that we should never lose one piece of the plate. So even in a situation right now, which are totally unprecedented times where we're all of a sudden moving far less than we would normally be, I wouldn't tell my athletes, okay, well, let's go ahead and just nix the carbs because we're not doing as much. Now we should probably have less carbs since that's an energy source and we're just not burning the same amount of energy. But I never want them to remove it completely. So I think part of it is helping the athletes understand, like, what is my activity level right now? I think for a lot of people and a lot of athletes, it's going to be lower for sure. And so we talked about the thirds of the plate. I would probably change that a little bit to say, okay, let's make closer to a half of our plate from fruits and vegetables if we can. And we can talk a little bit later about, how realistic that is given the circumstances right now. But if we can get half our plate or so from fruits and vegetables, and then a fourth of our plate from carbohydrate, a fourth from protein. And that, again, can ebb and flow. If people are able to remain pretty active, maybe they're going on runs, they're doing some kind of body weight or limited strength and condition or strength building activities. If they're able to do some of that stuff, they might be more of like a thirds of their plate, a moderate intensity. If they're still able to work out a lot, comparatively to when they would be practicing all the time or playing games, then maybe that carb goes up even more to a half or so of the plate. But I think that is probably not so realistic for most right now.